Hello and welcome back, adventurers. This is Captain TTRPG, and today we're talking about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Steel-clad boots ring out as they meet stone, sending an echo throughout the half-empty cells lining the dimly lit hall. Droplets of mold-infused liquid round out the only other sound. The rhythm and amplitude of the cacophony drowns out the near inaudible stretch of leather as the rogue lowers herself down from the ceiling. Nearly invisible in the lacking light, she approaches the pair of guards from behind, unnoticed as they mutely plod on. After finding the perfect mimicry of the steps of the senior guard, our thief uses the remaining moment she has to unclasp the sheath on his belt, followed by quickly stealing his keys. The second guard, clearly enamored with hero worship, looking over occasionally at his superior, is the first to reach the door to yet another lengthy, empty hallway. As the senior officer reaches for and is unable to find his keys, he orders his subordinate to open the door. With a swift motion, the junior guard, feeling honored for the moment, turns the key with force. The audible click lingers for but a moment before the door is thrown open with great force, knocking the junior guard unconscious as his head strikes the wall behind it. The senior guard quickly reaches for his sword, only to find that as his hand touches hilt, the sword falls away, clanging on the floor below. The guard looks back to find a gnome dressed in black leather, smiling and waving in the last few moments before consciousness fades away as a fist the size of his head meets flesh. The prison break moves forward as planned. Welcome back, adventurers. Today we're diving into yet another class, and today it is the Rogue. These are deadly sneak attackers with more skills than any other class but one, making them not just jacks of all trades, which they are, but they are even the masters of many. Rogues are martial characters. Most of the time, sometimes they act as near martials. Don't worry about that right now. And have dexterity as a primary ability score most of the time. Don't worry about it. We'll qualify that. We'll get there. They get 8 hit points per level, similar to classes like monks or thaumaturges. They're proficient in martial weapons and light armor by default. This makes them capable of melee damage rolls or ranged damage rolls, but keep in mind that you are still a bit squishy. You not only start with far more trained skills than other classes, 7 plus your intelligence ability modifier, by the way, which is huge, but you gain proficiency increases in skills every level rather than every other level, so you are truly the ultimate skill monkeys here. You're also expert in perception out the gate, which is great, reflex saves, and will saves. So right away, your saves are pretty good, and your initiative's going to feel solid. The different subclasses grant different ways to use their primary combat feature, the sneak attack in this case, and we'll talk about that in a second, as well as proficiency and special feat access for later levels. Again, your base attack stat is dexterity here most of the time. You will inherently be good at acrobatics because of this, as well as stealth and thievery. Your AC will never be terrible. Even though you're stuck with light armor, at least you've got enough dexterity to make up for it. And your reflex saves are going to be really strong. Again, you're starting as expert and you have dexterity. Rogues have 2 key level 1 features that really stand out here that I'm going to point out. And then they have a later feature as well that comes on at level 9 that I'm going to talk about. Normally I stick with level 1, but I'm going to start pointing out key features at higher levels, 9 in this case also 19, that I want to talk about because every rogue will get them. So what's your big level 1 feature? Well, that is sneak attack. In fact, almost everything in the class is built around sneak attack. You deal an extra 1d6 precision damage to off-guard enemies. You have to be using a finesse or agile melee weapon, agile or finesse unarmed attack, ranged attack, or ranged unarmed attack. Thrown weapons have to have the agile or finesse trait when thrown to count, so you can't just use any thrown weapon. And damage goes up to 2d6 at level 5, 3d6 at 11, and 4d6 at 17. So it does scale, not super fast, but it does scale. This can be triggered multiple times in a turn. This isn't like a one-time thing, right? This isn't just once per turn. Anytime you're attacking and you successfully hit an off-guard enemy, you're going to trigger sneak attack, as long as you meet those other criteria, which is really solid. As we dive into our subclasses, you're going to find more ways to help you trigger sneak attack, because that's really what we're building around here, at least early on. Our other level 1 feature here is surprise attack. This means that creatures that haven't acted when you take your first turn on round 1 are off guard to you. Now this only counts if you rolled stealth or deception for initiative, but given how high your dex is and you probably want to lean into stealth at least anyway, the chance of rolling stealth, assuming you weren't caught off guard or something, or weren't found in the open, can be pretty decent. So you want to kind of stick to the shadows. Deception's another great option, but usually you're rolling that if combat starts when you're in the middle of a social encounter. So again, normally I stick to level 1 features. I know in the last video I actually went beyond that a little bit with the kineticist. The features I'm going to point out though aren't things like increases to your saves and all that stuff. This is standout features that other classes don't get anything like it. What's the next one? Debilitating Strike. This is at level 9. It is a free action. If your last action was a successful strike against an off-guard creature, you get to add a following effect as a debilitation that lasts until the end of your next turn. In this case, by default, it is a minus 10-foot penalty to speeds, or you can make them enfeebled 1. Keep in mind, there is no save here. As long as you struck and you met the requirements, basically as long as you got a sneak attack hit in, this just works. And that makes this really strong. Keep that in mind when we talk about other feats that may relate to this, which I'll probably get more into in my ranking video because a lot of the better debilitations come from subclasses, but there's other ones just in the class itself that you can take that are very strong as well. Finally, we have Master Strike. This is level 19, also a free action, and it has the same requirements as Debilitating Strike, so kind of a replacement in some ways, if you want to look at it that way, but it's not truly. They do different things. The creature gets a Fortitude save in this case against your class DC, so it's not just free, but that's because it's brutal. If they crit succeed, then nothing happens. Just on a crit succeed. On a success, a normal success, they're going to be enfeebled 2. That is a huge downside for any strength-based creature. On a failure, it's paralyzed for 4 rounds. Paralysis, I'll link my video to conditions below, is gross. On a critical fail, it's either paralyzed 4 rounds, or unconscious for 2 hours, or just dead. It just dies. You get to choose. Yes, it can just die. Now, this does have the incapacitation trait, so you're not just going to insta-kill boss monsters. But wow, I mean, this is really, really strong. Okay, moving away from base class features, let's get into our subclasses, or rackets, for the rogue and what they offer. So, what does a racket, generally speaking, offer? There's one that doesn't quite fit the rest of the mold, but most of them offer a new or extended way to trigger a creature being off guard to you, a different primary ability score option other than dexterity, 2 proficiencies, and 2 feats that are specific to that subclass, one at level 2 and one at level 10. So what are these and which one breaks the mold? Well, we'll go ahead and start with that one. Thief breaks the mold here. The ability score option is, no, you just have dexterity. That's your option. But that's okay. The proficiency here is thievery. I mean, no surprise, but it is. Now, what's your sneak attack boost? Well, it doesn't have a normal sneak attack boost. Instead, you get something that I think a lot of people gravitate toward, which is normally in the game, when you use your dex attack modifier for attack rolls, you still have to use your strength for the damage rolls, right? That's the ability modifier that goes for damage rolls, and that only counts for melee strikes, nothing for ranged. Well, still you aren't going to get to add anything to your ranged attack rolls, but now when you're in melee and you strike with dexterity as your attacking ability score, you get to add it as your damage ability score as well. So you can ignore strength altogether with the thief and go really heavy down the dex track and still hit really hard with melee weapons. This is the only way to deal damage with your dex modifier in the game. So just keep that in mind. One subclass of the rogue. Very, very strong, though, for melee attackers. Mastermind. The ability score option here is intelligence. The proficiencies you get are society, and then one of the magic-related ones, so arcana, nature, religion, or occultism. Your sneak attack boost is recall knowledge. So if you succeed on recall knowledge against a creature, it is off guard to you until the start of your next turn. If you critically succeed on a recall knowledge check, it is off guard to you for 1 minute. So not only can you gather information for the party, you can make it really easy to sneak attack that creature. Ruffian. Your ability score option here is strength. Your proficiencies are intimidation, and medium armor. That's right, not a skill proficiency. You gain medium armor. And your sneak attack boost is you can sneak attack with any basic weapon with a D8 die or less, or any advanced or martial weapon with a D6 die or less. No finesse or agile needed. You get critical specialization if the creature is off guard when you crit. So you can get crit specialization for all sorts of weapons now, and you have way more options, and now you can go strength as your primary. So you can go a full strength rogue build here, and it's actually really strong. If you really want to grapple rogue, this is how you do it. Finally, we have the Scoundrel. This allows you to use Charisma for your ability score instead of Dexterity. Your proficiency boosts are Deception and Diplomacy, both very strong Charisma-based skills, although Intimidation is the other one you're probably going to take anyway. Your sneak attack boost is when you succeed at a feint, the creature is off guard to your attacks until the end of your next turn rather than just the next attack. If you critically succeed on your feint, the creature is off guard to all attacks, not just yours, all attacks, until the end of your next turn, and you can also step for free after feint. That's just always, though, when you feint, so you don't even have to succeed. You just always get to step for free when you do a feint. So, cool, can help you get out of combat if you need to. You can set up your allies to get some nice off-guard attacks. Very nice way to use feint, which sometimes gets ignored. Okay, so that gives you a taste of what's offered for each racket. Again, there are feats listed for them. We will get to those when we get to our subclass ranking video. Some of them are very, very strong, though. So all of these are, I think, very interesting and allows you different play styles, especially if you want to go deep into your skills, which you should. If you've been watching my skills video, a lot of skills are really good in this system. So even though we didn't talk about feats for the subclasses, I am going to run through the level 1 feats that are available to rogues, just so you get an idea of types of feats, and then we'll add a few others on that are beyond level 1. Alright, Nimble Dodge. Level 1, it's a reaction. When you're attacked, you can give yourself a +2 to AC against that attack. You have to see the attack coming and you can't be encumbered, but a +2 to AC, and there's no other restriction on this, just as a reaction every round. Pretty good. Overextending Feint. Level 1 gives you a new success and crit success criteria when you do choose to feint. Keep in mind, these don't go alongside the other boosts for feinting, or sorry, the other effects from feinting. If you critically succeed, the creature has -2 to attack rolls against you until the end of your next turn. On a success, it's just the next attack. It's a more defensively minded version of feint. Plant Evidence. Level 1, 1 action. You have to have the Pickpocket skill feat, but again, it's easy for you to get a hold of skill feats. You can get one at level 1. You can put a light, bulk, or less item onto a creature in melee range with a successful thievery check versus their perception DC. Ruffians, however, can do it while shoving, in case you went the strength route. So it's cool if you want to do things for social encounters, you want to plant evidence on people, is actually quite valuable. Trap Finder, level 1. You get a +1 boost to find traps, AC and saves against traps, and you can find them without actively searching. Normally you have to search for traps, you're just passively always looking for them, which can be a boost in certain dungeon crawls. Tumble Behind, level 1. When you tumble through a creature successfully, it'll be off guard to your next attack until the end of turn. This can be great for setting up your sneak attack, because you're going to have really high acrobatics as long as you're one of the dex builds anyway. Twin Feint, level 1, 2 actions. Have to have 2 one-handed weapons, 1 in each hand. When you attack with both weapons against the same creature, the second attack, the creature will be off guard to. Now what this essentially means is, because off guard reduces their AC against your attacks by -2, even though map still applies like normal, your first one's at your full attack penalty, the second one's only really at a -3 or a -2 with an agile weapon, because they're off guard against it, and it can trigger sneak attack. So if you want to be able to trigger sneak attack on your own while dual wielding, this is a critical feat to take. Your next, level 1, reaction. You have to be trained with Intimidation, but there's a lot of builds you're going to want to do that anyway, plus it's just a good skill. When you down a creature, you can demoralize another creature within 60 feet, which is longer than the normal demoralize, with a +2 circumstance bonus to your demoralize check. If you're legendary in Intimidation, this is a free action and not even a reaction. So if you really want to intimidate, this is a great way to just start throwing Intimidation around. Alright, we're going to do a few high-level feats now. Higher, at least. Twist the Knife, level 6, 1 action. If your last action was a successful strike triggering sneak attack, you can cause the creature persistent bleed damage equal to the number of sneak attack damage dice. So, At level 6, this is just 2, but it's still persistent bleed damage you get to add in for just 1 action, and persistent damage can be valuable. And instant opening, level 14, 1 action. You choose a creature within 30 feet to be off guard against your attacks until the end of your turn. No save, guaranteed sneak attacks. It will have either the visual or auditory trait, depending on how you describe your distraction, but just being able to set up, for sure, your sneak attack can be really, really important. Now that we've talked about the class feats, let's do a class chart breakdown. Alright, on screen you can see my breakdown like I've been doing for classes lately. The rogues, they gain critical versatility more than their increased number of proficiency skills and feats from class feats or racket. You'll always have a lot of options in all 3 pillars of play, as long as you take the right skills. But since other classes also get versatility from skills, granted to a severely lesser extent, the base class and feats are more focused on damage than this. I just had this land at a 3 because others can get similar types of versatility to the rogue. Damage, however, is a solid pillar for the rogues. They immediately gain sneak attack, adding an average of 3.5 damage per strike as long as the creature is off guard to you, which you need to make sure you're creating as often as possible. That's very valuable to this class. And of course, it goes up over time. There are many feats which increase the number of ways to deal damage to single targets, or just to add more damage to the pile. This is a very strong suit for rogues as long as the creature isn't immune to precision damage. And that's why I give this a 5. AoE damage isn't even an option. Aside from accessing magic items, but that doesn't really count, no, this is just something they don't do. I'm giving this a 1. So polar opposites on that. Okay, so maybe no AoE, but they do offer some support to teams in different ways. The first is with skills, but again, other classes get that, so I don't want to count that too much here. However, there are many ways to provide allies buffs to things like perception and flanking and off-guard combinations to use to aid allies to go beyond just, the abilities that they might have themselves. But still, it's not their strong suit, and there aren't that many ways to aid your allies in a support manner, so I'm going to land this at a 2. Control, on the other hand, rogues actually do manage in a more significant manner. Not only are there feats to help you make creatures off guard or intimidated, they eventually get Debilitating Strike, which we talked about. This and related feats that enhance Debilitating Strike and even things outside of that give rogues enormous toolsets to control enemies with things like Enfeebled, Paralyzed, Clumsy, and so on. And all of these are eventually on the table for you. The only problem with control from rogues is that it happens one target at a time. Without saves a lot of the time, but it can still be slow. But it is a solid showing at a 3. Finally, we have survivability. Rogues aren't the most survival-focused class. With dexterity as a primary ability score, at least most of the time, you'll have a decent AC. There are feats to boost your AC. We talked about one of them even at level 1. There's ways to reduce enemy attack chance, ignore reactive strikes, making you a possible skirmisher to do in and out attacks. And of course, you can always go with ranged attacks as well to stay alive. That 8 HP a turn, though, is on the lower side, and they aren't incentivized to have a high con score. It's not bad, but it only lands at a 3, above casters, but below marshals like fighters and rangers and barbarians and the like. The most straightforward racket to play is the Thief for a level 1 character, so if you're thinking about building one. There's no new rules to learn about how to make creatures off guard, you just know the basic off guard rules and you're fine. You get to use dexterity for attacks and damage rolls, at least in melee, and you will hit hard when keeping a solid AC up thanks to all the dexterity. Rogue builds will vary quite a bit, often based on your racket of choice. I'll list one here each for the different rackets, and these just scratch the surface of the many, many interesting builds you can do with rogues. For the Thief racket, I recommend dexterity followed by either charisma or wisdom, and then constitution, the other one of those two, int and strength. There's a lot of combinations here that can work for the Thief racket. You don't need strength though, because you're dealing damage with your dexterity ability score. So just keep that in mind. For Ruffian, you gotta go with strength first if you want to take advantage of what makes them special. I often think charisma is a secondary that's really strong because they've got some things there that work well with intimidation in their kit. And then dexterity, you still want to add some to your AC from dexterity. And then you've got constitution, you're going to be up there probably in their face. And then intelligence, wisdom, however you want to play that out. Mastermind Racket, intelligence first, again leaning into their special ability score, with a dex for your attacks, so you really want to make sure that's right up next to it. Probably want some constitution here, but it depends if you're going to be ranged or melee. You might want to stay ranged. Wisdom's going to be important. And then if you're going to be in melee, keep con. Otherwise, switch it out for charisma, but strength you can dump. And finally, the Scoundrel Racket. Charisma as your primary here, with dexterity again, same reason we did for Mastermind. And again, it depends if you're going to be up front or not. If you're going to be up front, hitting, I'd say con, and then maybe even strength. You want to add a little damage, because remember, dex won't give you damage here. And then wisdom and intelligence kind of here or there. But if you're going to stay at ranged, I'd say wisdom and intelligence swap in for constitution and strength. So what's a quick and easy level 1 build for a thief look like? Well, for level 1, we've got 2 different weapons I'm going to recommend here. I'm going to say a short sword and a short bow. Leaving one hand open when you're up in melee with a short sword will give you access to do things like interact with the creature using skill feats like Dirty Trick, which we'll talk about. And I do think it's wise, though, to have a weapon that fits what you're trying to do. Finally, I would also choose a short bow for your weapons. Give you something else. You could go with a longbow, but you'll probably be close enough where a short bow is valuable. Have multiple weapons with you depending on the scenario. Your armor at level 1, I suggest leather. You're going to have +4 in dexterity here. You're going to max out what you can gain from dexterity, and this will put you at a good AC. Where do I drop my ability scores? I'm going to have a +4 in dexterity. In this case, I'm going to go +3 in charisma, because I like those charisma-based skills, so intimidation, diplomacy, and deception. +1 in constitution, and +1 in wisdom. We can, again, we're thief, we can drop strength, we don't need it. I'm going to ignore intelligence because we have enough skills as it is. My class feat I'm going to take is tumble behind. This just gives you a nice easy way to set up off guard for yourself. Your acrobatics is already going to be high. Make sure you take that as one of your skills, and then you're just going to roll behind people and get them off guard when you're going to go ahead and give them a nice stab in the back. And finally, for a skill feat, I like Dirty Trick. This gives you the option to mess with your foes in a fun way for a single action that leans on your thievery skill, which is very cool. With that in mind, let's go ahead and jump in and look at a rogue gameplay example for a level 1 rogue. Han Jones has just left the nearby saloon when a few of his less friendly acquaintances approach him about a debt. While he attempts to talk his way out of it, it appears the choices are either go quietly or go unconscious. Han decides to go a different way. He attempts to convince them that he has a job lined up, and with their disbelief, initiative is rolled, Han using deception. Han manages to roll well and go first. With 2 enemies in his face, he decides it's best to strike and get out. He begins by tumbling behind one of the enforcers, making it off guard to his next attack. Using his short sword, he makes a quick stab. Being off guard drops the enforcer's AC by 2. With a decent roll, this becomes a critical hit. Han rolls the regular weapon dice, the sneak attack dice, and adds dex modifier to damage, then doubles for a grand total of 20 damage. No basic henchman survives that. Unfortunately, there are still 2 more to go, so Han uses his last action to gain some distance. The other nearby henchman is up. Now concerned about how quickly his ally was dispatched, he decides it's best to fire off his pistol, find cover, and reload. With a quick shot and hit, he deals 7 damage to Han and is now behind cover. The final enforcer, with her mallet in hand, rushes Han without fear. She takes 2 actions to approach and then attacks. With a lumbering swing, she misses Han, much to his relief. Han decides to deal with the ruffian in front of him first. Using Dirty Trick, he unbalances the heavily armored foe, who is now clumsy 1. With yet another roll, Han successfully makes her off guard and goes for the strike. With a total of -3 to AC now, meaning Han only needs a 7 for a critical strike, it's easy to roll that crit, which falls into a 22 damage attack from behind. The final henchman decides better to run and live to fight another day. Not wishing to push his luck, Han watches and shouts a quick quip to no one in particular. Alright, there's a quick look at some gameplay for the rogue. Hopefully that gives you an idea of what you can do at level 1, and it's easy to fit this in with other teammates. Obviously, I like to show them off single sometimes, but it's very important to set up your off-guard status for your sneak attacks. Pop culture examples, they're all over the place. I mean, the joke there, obviously, I was looking at 2 different characters that played by the same actor. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. We've got Han Solo, who could easily fit a rogue, and we've got Indiana Jones, also could be a great rogue. But there are so many great rogue options out there in popular media that I don't even want to begin listing them all. We'd be here forever. Choose your favorite. They're everywhere. I hope you appreciated this look at rogues, and they will help you make a level 1 rogue of your own. While you do that, I'm going to go ahead and rank the subclasses and work on my next video. And until then, adventure on.